Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to welcome everybody here for the launch of what we think is a really exciting new public-private partnership. As all of you know, COVID-19 has dealt the Chicago region a devastating set of interrelated health, economic, and social crises, and the impact of that has been felt the most by communities that went into this pandemic economically and socially fragile and have had the greatest impact, and particularly Black and Latinx communities. On the onset of the COVID pandemic, a coalition of stakeholders came together to help to address some of the emergent and urgent needs. In March, the Chicago Community COVID-19 Response Fund was launched. It was launched as a partnership between the Chicago Community Trust and the United Way with a coalition of philanthropic, private sector, and individuals. We raised almost $35 million, had over 6,000 donors, and almost 400 grantees. While we know that some of those urgent needs are still there and this crisis is not over, almost as soon as we started developing the response fund, we recognized that it was also important to think about pivoting to the long road of economic recovery. And we also felt that this recovery could not be like those in the past, which exacerbated systemic problems and left Black and Latinx families and communities further behind. So, drawing on the experience of the COVID Response Fund, today we launched Together We Rise for an Equitable and Just Recovery. We're launching this initiative on the anniversary of the Chicago fire. And like the Chicago fire, we know that once again we will rise and flourish after this crisis. Together We Rise will be hosted at the Chicago Community Trust, but this initiative will unite partners across philanthropy, business, government, nonprofits, and communities to help our region build back better, stronger, and more equitable. There are three components of this initiative: philanthropic, business practices, and policies. So for philanthropy, we will raise resources to invest in economic growth through supporting businesses, entrepreneurship, job creation, home ownership, and other things that spur economic development. From the business practices, we'll establish more equitable ways for our region to invest and develop business and to do business moving forward. And then on the policy front, continue to develop policies and advocate for policies that support economic growth and incentivize investment in disinvested neighborhoods. I want to thank all of the organizations that are already on board. There's a list, quite a growing list of them, but the initial contributors have been the Crown Philanthropies, BMO Harris, the Chicago Community Trust, the Coleman Foundation, the Corporate Coalition, the Field Foundation, Jewel Osco, John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, Joyce Foundation, J.P. Morgan Chase, PepsiCo, Northern Trust, Pert Foundation, Polk Brother Foundation, Pritzker Traubert, Robert McCormick Foundation, and the Vistria Group. So we have quite a coalition to start with, and we know that we are going to continue to grow that. We also have important partners for community engagement and research, including the Communities United for Equity, CUE, the Metropolitan Planning Council, and New America. We're proud to launch this with over $25 million in philanthropic resources already raised and over $600 million in business investment capital. And we are so pleased to do this alongside our mayor and her staff. So, I will introduce our mayor, who needs no introduction, but I want to recognize the incredible partnership we have had with her and her office in developing this initiative. Her vision for equity and a Chicago that works for all, alongside the important blueprint that she laid out with the roadmap to economic recovery has been a real inspiration for this initiative. And so without further ado, I will introduce our mayor, Mayor Lightfoot, and I just realized I forgot to say who I am. I'm Helene Gale, President and CEO of the Chicago Community Trust. So without further ado, Mayor Lightfoot.
I think by this time, Helene Gale needs no further introduction, but let me also just say that, and you've heard me say this before, Dr. Gale has been an incredible partner for so many things that are important to the lifeblood of the city, particularly as we have responded to and now are recovering from the effects of COVID-19. Now, don't get me wrong, COVID-19 is very much a part of our presence, but today is about making sure that we lay down additional markers on how we recover from the impact of COVID-19 and move forward, and as Dr. Gale said, in a way that sees the entirety of Chicago, every neighborhood, every corner, not just the downtown, River North, South Loop, but the entirety of our city that has been dramatically impacted not only by COVID-19, but by way too many years of lack of investment and focus in our neighborhoods. And that's why I'm proud to stand here today, and thank you so much, Dr. Gale, for your leadership. I also want to acknowledge our corporate representatives that are standing with us today and are here in the audience. Curtis Reed from Chase and Neil Pryor from PepsiCo. You'll hear from them in a moment. And Luis Gutierrez from Latinas Procesando. Also, I want to acknowledge Marty Nesbitt of Vistria Group, who's also here with us today, Guion Foreman of the Emerald South Development Corporation, and Eric Smith now of BMO. This is the kind of partnership that we need to make sure that the kind of investments that we need and our corporate committee to be all in, following the lead of our philanthropic community, is going to be so critically important. When the COVID-19 crisis first hit our city, we recognized immediately this wouldn't be just another public health crisis, but a crisis across our entire economy, upending jobs and livelihoods of Chicago's families and businesses, and leaving literally no one untouched. We also knew this would be especially have an impact on our most vulnerable residents and communities. The thousands of Chicagoans who were already struggling and who were already living on the edge of unemployment and healthcare needs and hunger long before this crisis ever began. We needed to act quickly and boldly, but we also knew that we couldn't do this alone. We needed the help of civic leaders and businesses, and that's what we've seen over and over again in these 7+ months that we've been dealing with this crisis. We knew we'd have to draw on the partnerships that we've been developing for months to tackle the very issues of hunger, housing, financial stability, and so much more facing these same vulnerable communities. And were the same issues at the heart of the outrageous inequity that has held our city in its grip for way too long. Inequities that especially impacted our Black and brown communities because they were born out of systemic racism that created it. And in that moment, one of the first partners we called was Dr. Gale and her team at the Chicago Community Trust. Since its inception over a century ago, the Chicago Community Trust has been at the vanguard of the fight against and for equal opportunity and equality in our city. It was by working together in collaboration with the Trust and other partners that we created supports like the Community COVID Response Fund to support our community's nonprofits, along with numerous other recovery efforts through this crisis. And it's that same spirit of partnership and collaboration that brings us here today to announce the exciting Together We Rise Fund. This initiative shows what's possible when companies, nonprofits, and public entities all come together to ensure that Chicago not only recovers from this crisis, but uses it as an opportunity to reimagine who we are as a city full of equity and opportunity for each and every one of our residents to grasp what is at their fingertips to really realize their God-given talent. That's something that we absolutely can and must do. That partnership can be seen in how the Together We Rise Foundation, our fund, is designed in line with our city's COVID-19 Recovery Task Force Plan, which we released earlier this summer. It was the first comprehensive COVID-19 recovery plan for any city in the nation. The Together We Rise Fund's partnership can be seen in how it's aligned with our major city initiatives like Invest Southwest, and how it will be a resource for other avenues of equitable growth in Black and Latino communities. Whether through investments in the projects of the Chicago Prize, small business support, job growth and development, driving in and really revitalizing our underinvested neighborhoods. But this fund isn't just about philanthropic contributions, as you've heard. Together We Rise means also extending our shared mission of equity by advancing key policies and procedures into our city's government, our corporate sectors, that will truly move the needle on who we hire, who we train, who we promote, which suppliers we buy from, what lending practices we utilize, what community balance sheet investments we make, and what opportunities we create together for our residents, particularly those in underserved communities. That is how we'll make Chicago the model for what all great American cities can and should be for their residents. With that commitment in mind, let me give special thanks to the commitments made by corporate partners like JPMorgan Chase and PepsiCo, who have consistently stepped up for our city through jobs and community investments and have stepped up once again today. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I also want to briefly recognize the contributions of Northern Trust in this effort and the numerous other institutions who have already engaged in this initiative. But folks, we still have room for more to join us. And that's why today, in this moment, I call upon every corporation, large business, who hasn't already committed to this initiative. You know, over the course of the summer, when we saw the civic uprising in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, companies all across the country made pledges and commitments. Now, many of them were over many years. Many of them didn't have a lot of details. This is your opportunity to fulfill the pledge that you already made and do it here to help Chicago, to help our neighborhoods, to build a better future so that our young children understand that the corporate community in this city sees them, cares about them, and is committed to their future as much as they are anything else. This is the moment to step up and show who you are as Chicagoans and your commitment not only to today, but to our future. When we talk about the importance and the power of partnerships and collaborations, this is precisely what we mean. We are asking you to come to the table to support this historic initiative, because this is what we need to move forward together to make sure that our city is stronger than ever before coming out of this crisis. I've been spending a little time recently thinking about the history of Chicago and the many times that this great city has been challenged. And there are a lot of parallels to the time that we're in right now. And every single time, our city was built stronger and better than ever before because of men and women across the city who linked arms with a common purpose and said, we must move forward together, and rolled up their sleeves and did what was necessary to build back Chicago. Whether it was labor uprisings in the late 1800s, whether it was following the pandemic that hit us and the Great Fire, whether it was the economic crisis in the beginning of the last century, and on and on and gone. The list of challenges that we have faced, the list of challenges that we have overcome is long. This is another moment in our shared history. And I hope that years from now, when people look back on this time, the year of 2020 not only is viewed as a year of great challenges, but another time where we dug down together, we linked arms, and we said, our future is together. We will link arms, and we will march forward together to build a city that is truly fair, that is truly equitable, where everyone matters and counts. That is the challenge that is on the table, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope that we see more take it up and join us in this incredible and important initiative. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to welcome Curtis Reed of J.P. Morgan Chase to say a few words. Curtis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership and that passionate call to action. We are grateful for the opportunity to stand alongside you today on behalf of J.P. Morgan Chase and to join the Together We Rise initiative. I commend you and the city for your forward-thinking efforts to address these challenges and bringing government, businesses, philanthropic organizations to work together. We've been in this community for a long time. J.P. Morgan Chase has been here for nearly 170 years. We're one of the city's largest employers, with 14,000 people living and working here, 4.5 million customers, and nearly 500,000 businesses across Chicagoland every day. These deep roots mean we're committed to investing in our communities and helping Chicago's residents and businesses succeed. To do that, we know we have to address structural barriers to opportunity that communities of color here and across the country have been facing. Barriers that have been exacerbated by COVID-19, like the mayor said. Earlier today, our firm announced nationally significant business changes and new investments to address these challenges and advance racial equity in America, especially among Black and Latinx communities. These initiatives are part of a long-term, firm-wide commitment to drive an inclusive economic recovery, support employees, and break down barriers of systemic racism. Here in Chicago, there are troubling home ownership and financial health gaps on the south and west sides, which is one of the reasons the firm has prioritized Chicago for a local rollout of the nationwide Path Forward initiatives. Over the last several months, we've met with more than 50 local community leaders, government officials, housing advocates, and our own employees to listen and better understand the barriers and unique challenges that our communities face. Every Chicagoan should have equal access to home ownership opportunity, and we all have work to do to make this happen. We are absolutely committed to helping more Black and Latinx households in Chicago achieve affordable, sustainable home ownership. While there's still more work to be done, the firm today is announcing a step forward to address these gaps. Today, J.P. Morgan Chase is announcing an additional commitment of $600 million in home lending to increase home ownership among 3,000 Black and Latinx families in Chicago, totaling $1.8 billion of home lending in majority Black and Latinx families across Chicago and the south and west sides over the next 5 years. This represents an over 60% increase in the number of loans to these families. We're taking a very much a multifaceted approach to help those families become homeowners. We'll expand low down payment loan programs, including doubling our home buyer grants to $5,000 and increasing closing cost assistance to $2,500 when refinancing with our Dreammaker product, and an additional $500 when completing a home buyer education course. We're hiring additional dedicated community home lending advisors in underserved areas who reflect the diversity of the community. We also know that small businesses, especially minority-owned businesses, have been hit even harder by the pandemic. So to help grow Black and brown-owned businesses in Chicago, we're also introducing a new program designed to help entrepreneurs in historically underserved areas access coaching, technical assistance, and capital. The new nationwide program is launched in Chicago with consultants who will provide over 1,500 Black and brown-owned small businesses with one-on-one mentorship and digital education to help them grow their business. The firm is also committed to increasing access to banking and building savings among Black and Latinx people. Over the next few weeks and months, you'll hear more about how we're investing in these areas in Chicago, including a brand new, exciting community branch in Stony Island that will connect neighbors and local businesses to educational workshops, resources, and special live events. Upgrades and renovations to our branch network in the South and West Sides, new local community managers and home lending advisors who will assist with home loans, drive financial health programming, host local small business workshops, pop-up shops, and foster community engagement in branches. Expanded access to traditional banking products, including secure banking, a low-cost, no-overdraft checking account through increased investment in outreach and awareness to more consumers on the South and West Sides. These commitments are a step forward as the firm works to address widespread racial and economic inequity in lending and banking. These commitments will be tracked and evaluated over time by a dedicated team to measure the impact in Chicago, including on the South and West Sides. We look forward to working with our many community partners, making new connections, continuing the conversation, and never stop looking for ways to expand access to opportunity and financial health for all Chicagoans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great example of answering the call of the charge that the mayor laid down. So our next speaker is Neil Pryor, who's the president of PepsiCo Beverages North America, the Central Division, and he's going to speak also about the commitment that PepsiCo has made to this new initiative.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Gale, for that very kind introduction. And Mayor Lightfoot, thank you for blazing the trail and provided needed support immediately for the people of Chicago. PepsiCo is humbled to participate today. We too are dedicated to the people of Chicago. Our roots in this great city extend back to 1901, when American cereal became the Quaker Oats Company. And when we acquired Tropicana, we brought the business here to Chicago, where our Gatorade, Quaker, and Tropicana brands have been proudly headquartered for over 30 years. We added PepsiCo Beverages to further expand our footprint in early 2019. I think it's safe to say that we believe in Chicago. As an essential service during the pandemic, more than 2,000 proud PepsiCo Chicago employees have safely continued to work across the entire business, including teams that are keeping stores stocked and serving communities across the city. When it was needed most during COVID, we invested more than $1 million in Chicago-based relief work, including with Chicago Cares and the Chicago Community Trust here today. We provided more than 600,000 servings of food and 10,000 nutritious meals with partners including Build, Increase the Peace, and La Casa Norte to help address the needs of our underserved neighbors. Our PepsiCo team shares with Chicago a deep commitment to and faith in resiliency. As we know, resiliency is not about meeting the needs of today alone. It requires that we also build for the future and create long-term solutions. Chicago knows resiliency well. From the fire, blizzards, floods, and heat waves, all of Chicago recovers, rebuilds, and leans in to shape our future. That's why we're so proud to stand alongside you, Mayor Lightfoot, and these Chicago leaders to announce our continued commitment to this great city, including that the PepsiCo Foundation is proudly investing $1 million with the Hatchery, the food and beverage incubator and production facility dedicated to supporting Chicago entrepreneurs. PepsiCo's support of the Hatchery aims to help more than 400 female entrepreneurs with their dreams of building their own business, as well as job seekers on the South and West Side with grants and other services. PepsiCo is also building on a 3-year, $300,000 partnership with City College of Chicago by extending our commitment with a new 5-year partnership to provide scholarships and wraparound support services for students seeking trade and certificate education. To date, our partnership with city colleges has resulted in nearly 70 scholarships and students gaining employment with PepsiCo, which we will now take to the next level. And recognizing how many Chicago families are facing higher food insecurity due to COVID, we're in the process of distributing 100,000 nutritious meals over the next few months through our Food for Good nutrition program with partners like La Casa Norte in Humboldt Park and with other local nonprofits. Additionally, I am proud to announce that PepsiCo will invest to support Black-owned restaurants in Chicago with significant resources as part of the company's more than $400 million initiative over 5 years to lift up Black communities and Black representation in business, so much more to come to that in the near future. PepsiCo has invested deeply in Chicago for years, and we're proudly increasing that support by more than $500,000 annually. Our support will be directed specifically to Chicago's South and West Side communities in the areas of job training and new career opportunities, continuing education and youth development, and to building healthier communities via nutrition, engagement, and volunteerism amongst our thousands of local employees. Our goal is to help meet acute needs of underserved communities and to help build long-term solutions which support all of Chicago's continued resiliency. Because we know that resilience isn't something that just happens. We must believe in it, we must build it, so that together we can become it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your commitment as well, Mr. Pryor. Our final speaker is Luis Gutierrez, who's the founder and CEO of Latinos Progresando and also a member of our steering committee. And I just want to say, you know, while we recognize how important it is to have the public sector involved, to have philanthropy involved, and to have business involved, and to be able to have those resources, we also felt in designing this initiative that it was critical that we had the voice of the community at the table as well. And so we're pleased to have Luis, who will talk about some of the ways in which we hope to have engagement of the community and community voice as part of this. Luis was born and raised in Chicago's Southwest Side and has been a key force in the civic community for many, many years. So, Luis.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to say thank you to Mayor Helene Gayle and the Chicago Community Trust for two things. One, helping us get through this pandemic, and two, having a vision for creating a plan that we can use to rebuild a better Chicago for tomorrow. By now, it's no secret that the inequities that have happened in Black and brown communities are the reason why the pandemic has hit these neighborhoods so hard. The truth is that Black and brown communities make up 2/3 of the city of Chicago. And so the city of Chicago does not win if Black and brown communities do not win. We are the backbone of the city of Chicago, and we must be at the front of every plan that's created for this city and for the region. These have been difficult times for everybody in our communities, but even with these difficult times, I find inspiration in seeing everybody coming together to help all the people that need the support, especially the most vulnerable in these Black and brown communities. I'm excited to be working with the Chicago Community Trust, my fellow steering committee members, leaders from all the civic organizations, foundations, to create this plan and make sure that community is at the forefront of everything that we do for the city of Chicago moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. Before I close, I wanted to, and Mayor already did recognize some of our partners who are in the audience. Because of time, we weren't able to have everybody say something, but I wanted to recognize, again, Guion Foreman of Emerald South, who is going to be a steering committee member for Together We Rise, Eric Smith from BMO Harris, and you'll be hearing more from BMO about their commitment to the Together We Rise and continued commitment to economic opportunity in disinvested neighborhoods. And particularly want to also mention Marty Nesbitt of the Vistria Group. Marty on his own said, I want to raise dollars for this recovery because I want to give the message that the business community is here and here to stay, and we want to make a strong stand around that kind of commitment. So I really want to thank you for your own initiative to be part of this effort and to show people that how important it is that we make the kind of commitment to a recovery that is equitable and strong. So for now, I will just open it up for any questions that we have for any of our participants.
Jordan with the Mayor's Office. We didn't have a formal poll reporter today, so I have a few questions,
Yes.
and then we'll turn it over to a couple other of our press folks. First on-topic question, actually for you, I think, from Greg Pratt at the Tribune. How will the $25 million be given out? What will be the application process and timeline for giving out the money?
Yeah, thank you. You know, we're still in the process of working out some of those details. You know, we want to use some of those initial dollars for some projects that we know are already ready to go and that demonstrate the commitment to economic growth. You know, as an example, there's a lot of work already ongoing around developing ecosystems for small businesses. We will probably invest in some of those partnerships. We had the Chicago Prize, and there was one prize winner, but there are other finalists who have activities that are ready to go and that could really help to spur economic opportunity. So we're still working out some of those details, but we want to make some of those early investments in the next couple of months to really get some, catalyze some growth and some economic opportunity as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Dr. Gale. Mayor, the remaining questions are for you. Let's start with Leah Hope from ABC7. She's asking why the winter
I'm sorry,
dining...
Jordan, can you just speak directly into the mic?
Yes, sorry. Leah Hope with ABC7 is asking why the winter dining challenge is so important and what you hope comes out of it.
Well, I think we've already gotten a lot out of it already. She's asking about the winter dining challenge. What it shows, I think, is tremendous innovation and creativity of folks, not just here, but we got responses from all across the country and some foreign countries as well. But we wanted to do something creative to think about how we can support our restaurants and our bars, because as we all know, in Chicago it gets cold. And with the restrictions on indoor dining, that even though we've lifted them a bit and increased capacity, it's not 100%. And it probably won't get to 100% until we've got a fully functioning vaccine and people are actually getting vaccinated. So thinking creatively and really borrowing from other countries was something that I think is an exciting part of that Winter Design Challenge. And we're going to put together a book of the various ideas so that people can see them.
Craig Wall, also from ABC7, asks if you have any reaction to Dr. Willie Wilson's positive COVID-19 diagnosis.
Well, of course I wish him the best. You know, Dr. Wilson has a very generous heart. He's contributed mightily in a lot of different causes, and particularly supporting black churches on the south side and the west side. And I wish him well and a speedy recovery.
Univision is asking for a comment about what's happening out in Michigan. With the plan to kidnap the governor out there because of the COVID restrictions she imposed, the FBI says they've uncovered elaborate plans to endanger lives of law enforcement. What do you make of such disregard for the law enforcement and government?
Well, the story is obviously just unfolding, and I will take time to read the criminal complaint, but it's chilling. And I think all roads lead back to Donald Trump. As you know, there's a lot of conversation around a tweet that he put out that said, "Liberate Michigan." Unfortunately, every single time he attacks a public official, and I know this personally, there are those who take that as license to come after us. The level of hatred that has been spewed towards me every time the president or his spokesperson uses my name in public, not just attacking the city, but me personally. And I know this is the experience of other mayors and other elected officials across the country. Look, we can have honest policy debates. We can disagree on a range of issues. But Donald Trump has emboldened and empowered an element in our country that we know exists. Sometimes we don't want to talk about it, but it's absolutely there. And there's a lot of racist, misogynist, xenophobic, violent people that are out there who threaten me and my family and other elected officials because the president gives them license. And so while Donald Trump's name may not be in the charging documents, he has a measure of responsibility for this plot, and thank God the FBI interceded and it never came to fruition. But this is a lesson for all of us. Words matter. And when you're in public life, you have to choose your words carefully. And giving any license to violence or extrajudicial actions on the part of armed militias, as Donald Trump has repeatedly done, and refuse to denounce white nationalists and racists, we are living in unprecedented times. And I hope that the country is watching and takes notice and does what's right and what's going to be necessary to save our democracy on November 3rd.
Thank you, Mayor. Two more from me. Kelly Bauer from Block Club. Southside residents say the city's failure to inform the public about RMG's permit is not a one-off. City officials have promised transparency before and failed to follow through. Will new policies be enacted to ensure promises of transparency are met in the future? If not, why should residents trust the city to hold itself accountable?
I think you asked this question yesterday, and I'll give the same response. Obviously, the commitment that we have made to transparency and to give communities notice, that was a miss by the Department of Public Health, and they've taken ownership of that. Moving forward, we're going to do better, and we're going to make sure that there is sufficient engagement when there are notable events involving anything related to this RMG on the Southwest side, but also other places across the country. That's why I feel so strongly about the air quality ordinance that we will get passed, because it does allow for engagement and notice.
And my last question is from Amy Jacobson with WIND Radio. On the heels of Columbus Day, many in the Italian-American community want to know when you'll be putting the Christopher Columbus statues back up in Chicago.
Well, we have been actively engaged with a lot of different stakeholders, including those from the Italian community, and we have said to them, and they know it, that we have stood up a Monuments and Memorials Committee that's continuing to do its work, and will make a range of recommendations, not just on a single statute, but on ways in which we can do a better job reflecting Chicago's history and how we memorialize things like statues, monuments, murals, and the like. And so I look forward to the work of that committee.
Hey, Mayor.
How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
You decided to take a long walk across the street?
That's right. I need my exercise. I wanted to go back to what you said about threats. You may or may not have heard that the FBI a few minutes ago arrested 6 people who were allegedly plotting to kidnap Jennifer Granholm, the governor of Michigan. Without compromising your security, can you tell us a little bit more about how often, how serious, how detailed threats have been to you and your family?
They've been serious. And we spend, my detail and the police department spend a significant amount of time, unfortunately, tracking down these threats that come in from various parts of the country. Some of them are quite sophisticated because they're using landlines that are not actually the people that are involved. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't get some kind of harassment, whether it's just repeated calls, things left on voicemail, or other things threatening violence. Now, some of them are just people who want to vent their spleen. That goes with the territory. But there is a real cause and effect when the president names me in a disparaging way, which is usually what he does. And people feeling like they have license to make what I regard as real threats. When somebody's calling in the middle of the night repeatedly, that's an issue. And that has only happened since Donald Trump has been trying to attack me personally. And it's an issue that many of us as mayors, and he seems to have a particular obsession with female and particularly mayors of color, whether it's me, whether it's Muriel Bowser, Keisha Lance Bottoms, Jenny Durkin. We've all seen the same thing happen when he has focused his very large megaphone on us and giving license to people who, whether they're suffering from some kind of mental disability or thinking that they are patriots, answering the call. But it's serious, and I take my security seriously. And Greg, since you gave me the opening, I'll also say this. I think it's really important for the media to think long and hard about how they cover these issues. I don't take it lightly when I see reports in the media making it as if we're making this stuff up, or that it's not quite as serious as it is. The last time there was some reporting by a print paper here, 2 groups of people showed up at my house. Luckily, we were not there, but they didn't show up to bring us cookies and welcome us. They showed up to try to threaten our safety. So I would just ask the media to really think long and hard about how you're reporting on these issues. This is serious business, and we have to take it seriously. And we are threatened. Now, I'm not going to sit here and ask for a pity party for me. I'm tough and strong, and we will deal with whatever comes our way. But we are living in a time where we all have to think very seriously about the impact of our words. We don't have a president who will do that, but we have a responsibility to do that here in Chicago.
How confident are you that if Mr. Biden is elected, that things will change? Is the genie kind of out of the bottle?
I wish I could say that if Biden were elected president that it will change. I mean, certainly some things will change because he's actually a good and decent, thoughtful person in contrast to what we have right now in the White House. But I think win or lose, we have to be prepared. Somebody's going to be upset. The toxicity of our public debate that has been with us for way too long and has really been exacerbated over these last few years. And if I'm honest, from the moment that Donald Trump came down the escalators in 2015 and started talking about, in a disparaging way, about members of the Latinx community, and he has never stopped. He's only escalated the rhetoric. Some of that will go away, but the forces that he has ignited, that dog whistle that he blows almost every single day, that's not going to disappear overnight, no matter who is elected in November, which is why it's really incumbent upon us to think about and remember, as I try to do every day. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I have failed in myself. But we do need to remember that our children are watching and that they are emulating what we do, what we say. I'm distressed that my 12-year-old is growing up in this environment. And it makes the job of parenting that much harder, that much more that we have to do to hug our kids a little closer, love them even more, but also explain to them that a lot of the vitriol that they see on social media, that's not real life. But man, oh man, is it hard.
One more question on topic, if I could. There's lots of research that shows that the disinvestment and the lack of investment in the South and the West Side has been mostly on the private sector side rather than the public sector. $600 million for 3,000 families is certainly a start, although redlining has been illegal in this country for a very long time. Fill us in on what more you see, what more you expect in the way of increased private investment.
Well, look, I want to thank Jamie Dimon, and I want to thank Chase. I had a conversation with the CEO earlier this summer when a report came out about the lack of funding for mortgages in Black and brown communities, and I challenged him at that time to do better, and he committed that he would. And I think today's announcement and J.P. Morgan's being with us in announcing this fund is him making, and I'll say, first steps on making good on a commitment. But there's more that absolutely can be done. But I also say this, you know, we can't, as a government, just ask the private sector or philanthropy to step up. We've got to have skin in the game, too. We've got to lead by example. That's why in every kind of event like this, you're going to hear us talk about Invest Southwest and why that commitment is so important. Being visible and being present in neighborhoods that haven't seen the kind of investment that they should have, and meanwhile, those commercial corridors have disappeared. I hear the stories of people that are not that much older than me talking about the vibrancy of Black and brown communities in the city not that long ago. And yet when you drive around, you don't see it. As a kid growing up in a decaying steel town, whenever there was new development, which wasn't often, it was a huge cause for community celebration. Now, my town is the size of some of our neighborhoods in Chicago, but I remember those moments very, very vividly and how important that was, the level of enthusiasm that generated. And whenever I'm in neighborhoods in Chicago where those kinds of investments are happening, people feel a sense of pride. They feel a sense of ownership, and they feel like the city writ large has not passed them by, that we see them. And that's why these kind of investments, starting from where we are and building, are so important. So I'm never going to begrudge anyone. Now, it doesn't mean behind the scenes that I'm not going to encourage them to do more, and I do, and I will continue to do that. But this is an important moment for our city that I think will redound to our benefit for years to come. And I meant what I said earlier. We've had so many moments over the arc of our history in Chicago where we've been down, and people like this have stepped up and said, I'm going to do my part. This is our moment. This is our opportunity.
You would want to come back to the Chicago Winter Dining Challenge.
Yeah, sure.
And how concerned are you about the future of restaurants in Chicago and Chicago's status kind of as a culinary tourism destination?
Well, you know, as my friend Sam Toya likes to say, we're the culinary capital of the world for a reason. We've got an array of high-end and neighborhood places that make a huge difference in offering a range of different culinary experiences. And that industry has been hit hard. It's been devastated. And that's why we've spent a significant amount of time and focus just on the restaurant industry alone. We obviously look at other sectors of our economy that have been hard hit, but we are very, very focused on putting our restaurant industry in the best possible position. I personally have probably had more engagement on that topic alone in the last 6 months than on probably any other, aside from obviously our overall COVID-19 response. But I will say it's important. Restaurants not only entertain us, they give us an opportunity to gather as friends and families and colleagues, but they employ a lot of people. They are critical, not just to the employees in the individual restaurants themselves, but think about the supply chain that goes into supporting the restaurant industry in our city. It's vital that we do everything that we can to uplift them, to give them a fighting chance. Now, I know that some have closed their doors, unfortunately, and won't be back. But in their wake, we need to make sure that we plant the seeds of opportunity for others to follow. I'm confident that we will rebound, but we have to be very intentional about making sure we provide the supports for them to be able to do that. They can't do it alone.
I do have one more if you have the time. Sure. Your thoughts on the debate last night and the possibility that now that the second debate will be a virtual event, both candidates are talking about not being part of it.
Well, look, I thought last night was interesting. You know, Vice President Pence, I think, had the mission of doing no harm and trying to put lipstick on a very bad situation, let's say, which I think was quite a challenge. And he, you know, gave it the old college try, but there's some things you can't paper over. And to me, one of the most astonishing moments of the night was when he said, Donald Trump believes in science. Since when? Since when? When he pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord? When he consistently undercut all of the public health experts at his fingertips, world-renowned, over and over and over? I thought it was ironic that Vice President Pence kept saying the name of Dr. Fauci. They must have done some research polling recognizing that he's more credible on every issue than Donald Trump can ever dream of. But it was you know, I started jokingly calling him Pinocchio Pence. It was just astonishing, the things that he said that just were fundamentally, demonstrably false. Now, having said that, I think it would be a lost opportunity if we truly have no more presidential debates. Now, the president certainly didn't acquit himself well in the first debate. And maybe this is his way of throwing his own Hail Mary, saying, great, I won't do it virtually, I just won't do it. But the fact of the matter is there shouldn't be a second debate on October 15th. He's still in his quarantine stage. He's still potentially infectious. And the fact that they won't tell us when he actually had his first positive test, that they won't allow contact tracing, the fact that he's back in the Oval Office, going again against every public health guidance. A man just refuses to lead by example on anything positive for our country. So I don't know that we will miss much not having a debate under those kinds of circumstances, but the debate must continue, and I'm confident that it will. Thank you. I'm sure you've seen the various social media comments about that.